In any comment section of any video discussing SCPs, you will find a treasure trove of people demanding that some high-end talent gets their shit together and makes a media empire focused on the anomalies that the Foundation works so hard to contain. It's a guarantee like death and taxes. It makes sense too. SCPs are top-notch X-Files style tales with plenty of potential for all sorts of creative media. We've seen excellent short films and animations created using the SCP universe, so why not extrapolate and envision entire series? Let's talk about the top 5 SCPs that need a Netflix show. And hey, Netflix, if you need a consultant, you know where to find me. Coming in at number 5, we've got Cain and Abel, also known as SCP-073 and 076. Now, there are a lot of ways to approach the creation of this show. Cain and Abel are SCP legends and have been around since way back when. Countless hours have been poured into writing fanfiction, creating fan art, and crafting tales to further develop the mythos surrounding these two humanoids. Because of this, each of the two quasi-biblical characters can be interpreted in plenty of different ways. One particularly fun idea would be to make it a sort of buddy cop affair. Two powerful humanoids with untold powers being discovered by the Foundation and made into anomaly-containing assets. At first, they clash a lot, both with each other and Foundation personnel. This could lead to plenty of comedic interactions and high-stakes situations, and also a lot of dead D-class. But in the end, they get the job done. I kind of picture it like Supernatural, but with ancient augmented humanoids who also have superpowers. Over time, they would interact with all sorts of other high-profile SCPs, often being asked to deal with them in whatever way they see fit. Hell, it could even kind of play out like Archer, with these two ill-tempered, profane experts getting jobs done in the least subtle way possible. Another way to run this show would be to have Cain as the good guy on the Foundation side and Abel as the shadowy antagonist. Cain could spend time trying to figure out his past and how he managed to show up under the Foundation's watch, as well as seeing if he can puzzle out what Abel is all about. These psychic cults would eventually get involved, and probably the Church of the Broken God too. This would be a lot more dark and dramatic than the buddy cop idea, with sweeping storylines and a bunch of horrific secrets to uncover. With all of the dark and gritty video game and comic book adaptations that seem to be coming down the pipeline lately, Cain and Abel could fit right in. Just be ready for all the hardcore fans who have a million theories and headcanons and upsetting ships. Oh boy. Coming in at number 4, The Shy Guy. Based on the amount of short films, video games, animations, and general stories that feature this terrifying creature, I'd say there's plenty of storytelling opportunity here. Hell, Mr. Clay even made what feels like the pilot for a TV show featuring 096 that blew up last March. Has it really been a year since then? Wild. Back to The Shy Guy though, this SCP is a classic, a creepypasta legend. If you see the monster's face, it'll hunt you down to the ends of the earth and tear you to pieces. Doesn't matter if you see it in person, through a picture, or captured on camera, you witness it, you die. It's near impossible to kill too, with seemingly indestructible bones and flesh that regenerates no problem. The danger this thing poses is much more than just murdering a few overly curious folks too. If it were to chase someone into a heavily populated area, the whole world could be in danger. The more people who witness it, the more killing it has to do. This could make for a wicked viral horror-style Netflix show. At first, nobody really knows what this threat is, as it stealthily takes out different characters. Soon, folks realize that an image of it's being shared, with many people convinced that it's just an urban legend like Slender Man or something. As more people die, the Foundation has to get involved, but their presence is just as unsettling to the average individuals who come across this spooky story. By the end of the series, it's a full-blown nightmare, with the image spreading faster than anyone could ever imagine, and the Foundation having to take drastic measures. Think Stranger Things meets The Promised Neverland with some extra psychological horror and slasher elements thrown in. Tell me that doesn't sound amazing. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-507. I've talked about the reluctant dimension hopper on this channel a bunch before, but here he is again. There is absolutely limitless potential for a character like this on a fun, animated TV show. See, he finds himself in totally random dimensions all the time and has no control over where or when he hops between worlds. By reading the different logs attached to his file, you can find out all about the wacky adventures he accidentally goes on all the time. It's not easy to be a reluctant dimension hopper, but there's plenty to discover by doing so. So here's my pitch for a TV show, a mix between Doctor Who and Rick and Morty. All of the wild adventures and worlds of both of these cult hits without any of the knowledge or agency that the titular characters of those other shows usually end up with. Imagine it. Every episode is this hapless goofball ending up somewhere totally foreign with no idea about how to manage to survive. He's got to figure out what the rules of that space are, find some friendly companions, or fight for survival immediately. Lots and lots of possibilities here. And you would never run out of episodes, because he could literally end up anywhere. Add in some recurring characters back at the Foundation to be authority figures, friends, and love interests, and you've got a bunch of arcs you can work with too. Plus, if one particular locale is a hit, you can bring it back later to appease the rabid fans that tend to accompany shows like this. We'd meet the Smiling Man, visit the Mushroom Dimension, find out what happens in the Hyper Pleasure Realm, and over time, our everyman protagonist would learn a thing or two and become more competent while traveling between dimensions. Episodic structure with character growth over time. It's a recipe for success, I swear. Coming in at number 2, SCP-1504. Now, everybody loves a good anti-hero, which is exactly why 1504 would work so well on a Netflix show. This dude that nobody notices could pull off whatever crimes he wanted. Robbing banks, stealing valuables, beating up folks he doesn't particularly like, you name it. At first, he would seem irredeemable, but then maybe he comes across someone in a time of need. He decides to help that person without them knowing, and their life is so much better for it. Somehow, somebody notices what 1504 did and spends their time trying to convince him to do more good. But all the while, he wants to hold on to his nihilistic, hedonistic lifestyle. A back and forth between good and evil within this one character could be very interesting to break down, especially as folks way worse than him continue to be awful. Will he accept his duty and do what needs to be done, or will he remain Joe Schmo and dick around for the rest of his days? I think the mix of sympathy for his loneliness and unasked for abilities and his general jerkiness would make for a good, consistent conflict to follow. Plus, the person or people trying to convince him to do good with his latent inability to be noticed could have all sorts of interesting side plots of their own to keep things fresh. The pilot episode could be Joe waking up and slowly realizing what's happened to him for the first time. Maybe even opening up a line of investigation regarding the source of this anomaly. Oh man, somebody open up Celtics. And coming in at number 1, we've got SCP-999. A universal favorite across the board. Who wouldn't want to watch the adventures of an adorable, sweet-smelling slime and its eventual ascension to Scarlet King Killer? SCP-999 interacting with various famous researchers, anomalies, and persons of interest while living its best life at a Foundation facility. It could start off as a bunch of little sketches involving 999 interactions and how this adorable ball of goo makes everyone's lives better, but soon enough it starts getting called into weirder experiments and eventually is required to use its levity, love, and light to defeat the big bad of the SCP universe. There's no denying the appeal of a program dedicated to SCP-999. And if you do deny it, well, I don't know what to say to someone so devoid of joy. Take a seat and think about what you've done. I'm just spitballing here, you know? Of course, the ideal SCP Netflix show would take elements from all of these and somehow manage to weave them all together. Maybe pick one protagonist to follow on their quest, while the others play out subplots and side stories in the background. There's so much to enjoy within the wild world of SCP, so if whoever's making a Netflix show about it misses some stuff, I'd be okay with it. So what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my picks? What SCP do you think deserves a show of its very own? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more infectious ones from the top 5 scary 2021 predictions. Mikkel Rose says young people half dead. Sounds like Generation Z to me. Generational politics are fake problems invented to distract from class inequality. Next comment. Jerome Paisley says Nostradamus predicted a lot of stuff, but it's real pick and choose. But isn't it fun to talk about? Shay FG says, give me at least a year to organize and get ready. Well, won't you then need like another year after that to prepare for the next year? You're setting yourself up for failure here. Mercenary Tao says, or as I like to call it, much to the chagrin of those around me, Season 2. Well, I mean, at least it got renewed. Now we've got a chance to make it better. And Leah Toshak says, has anyone tried switching it on and off again? Isn't that what Y2K was supposed to do? Maybe we'd be better off if that actually happened. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to attend a wedding with Cousin Johnny. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.